As we gear up for Baptist Women in Ministries Month of Advocacy this March 2025, we're chatting with groups who have participated in the month of advocacy in inspiring ways. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Reverend Molly Shoulta Tucker. Molly is the senior pastor of Ridgewood Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Molly, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm eager to hear about the ways that your church has participated in Month of Advocacy. So let's just start by you sharing with us what motivates you and your congregation to participate in this important month.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I think that our motivation is both in the world and in our church. So we, recognize that there is some spotlight on women and women's rights and bodies and callings and all of the above. And so part of advocating within our church is an answer to what's going on in the larger world. For every no that a woman or a girl is told outside of the church, we want to answer that with a yes. Yes, we believe you. Yes, God is calling you. Yes, you are capable. So part of it is answering to what the greater world is saying to women, at this moment, and has for a long time through different modes of patriarchy, but
Right,
but
right.
but meeting the moment and then recognizing that yes, there is this greater calling in the world, but also just for both our girls and our guys to see women whose voices are empowered in the pulpit, or to not know anything different other than, yeah, our deacons right now, it is 100% made up of women. It just happens to be that way. But I mean, how many Baptist churches have a deacon board that's completely made up of men? So we're able to show the kiddos and the youth in our church that there is another way, so they will not know there's any other way, that they will not be able to imagine a church where women and men and our non-binary friends are not called as equal. So really, it's a both and. It's out there and it's in here. Is really where we find our motivation.
I love that. I love that, especially for the kiddos. That is so true. To have little girls and little boys grow up and believing and just knowing that both men and women
Yeah.
can be called by God.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, so how did you prepare leading up to your month of advocacy, and what were some of the things that you did? What kind of actions did you guys take?
Yeah. So really, the month of advocacy started with our budget preparations in the fall before, and sitting around in our group that's called our Justice and Missions Ministry group. Someone said, in light of what's going on in the greater world, is there a way we can support women,
Mm.
particularly women in the church? And I said, yes, I know of a way we can do that. And so we decided to add Baptist Women Ministry to our missions and justice budget. So so we
Love
decided,
that.
and I think, being on the board, it's not that every church has to give like thousands and thousands. Just start somewhere, because it shows in the story of your budget how you want to support women. So we started with our budget and added it there. And then we talked about, what the month of advocacy could look like. And at the time, not every year can look like this, but at the time, we knew we were having this conversation, I think in September or October. We knew that there was a documentary. I don't know if it was public at that point, but I had
You
insider
had insider information.
I had inside information that there was gonna be a documentary and that there were gonna be screenings. And so we decided that we would try to host one of those screenings. And so as soon as, you know, it went public and the ask went out, I asked if we could have a showing at Ridgewood, and we arranged that, and we were really excited to be able to host to be the host for that documentary in the city of Louisville after its premiere. So we were really excited. Um, So really our, it started just with someone asking the question, and then we kind of linked on to what was already happening within the BWIM organization.
Love that. Yeah.
And it so happened that, the weekend of the documentary, Meredith Stone was in town, and so she came and preached at our church that same weekend. And so when we figured out that that was happening, I think it was one of our deacons said, well, we should do something. And I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? What should we do? And someone said, we should do a proclamation. And we're like, what? Like what proclamation? They're like, proclamation in support of Baptist women in ministry. And I was like, now we're talking. We can do that. So then we started. So it was just kind of these conversations and just throwing out ideas, but really just starting somewhere. And the somewhere was, hey, let's give some money. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but let's just start to put some of our churches, uh, some of what we're asking our folks to give, let's give it to Baptist Women in Ministry. And that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of where preparation started.
I love it. It's so organic. It started with a question
Mhm.
and it turned into a screening and a proclamation. And I love all of that. So, as you were planning, did you guys run into challenges or obstacles in that process? And if so, what'd you do about them?
There were no major speed bumps. And I should say, Ridgewood has historically been supportive of women. So it was not like this was out of left field or anything. But the one part that I do remember having more extensive conversation about, and it seems silly now because we're past it, but in as we were putting together this proclamation in support of women, we named we are doing this proclamation because Jesus was supportive of women, and women supported Jesus's ministry. I mean, literally financially supported Jesus's
Right.
ministry, and in other ways, and here, whereas Ridgewood has supported women in ministry for decades and whatever. And then we kind of get to like the nitty gritty of the language. And we we wanted it to sound good, right? Wanted to look good, but there's this phrasing of it of we proclaim emphatically that women have the authority to lead in the church. And I remember one of our deacons, I mean, like good-hearted, was like, well, does that make it sound like too like proclamation? Like we're
Okay.
we're banging our fists on the table. and uh,
Uh-huh.
and we kind of went around about that word authority. And finally someone said, I remember one of the deacons, as we were talking about the language, said, well, if we don't use authority, then what's the point? And it was kind of like everyone was like, oh yeah, that's true. And it
Yeah.
is it's a word that I think that churches who affirm women may shy away from, because there's probably been some pastor at some point, or even churches that don't affirm women. There's been a pastor at some point who said, "I have the authority to," and so I think as congregational churches, we can sometimes fear that word
Yeah.
authority, because
Mhm.
we probably had some experience where authority was exercised in an unhealthy way. But our conversation came to, if we don't think that women are called by God to have a place of authority in a church, then what are we doing? Why does this matter?
Yeah.
Um, so even churches that have for decades supported women, for decades believed that women have the spiritual authority within a
Right.
congregation, it the word can still kind of drum up other
Yeah.
connotations. So that was our only little speed bump, and it didn't even, come up in the congregation once we got it, out to the rest of the
Okay.
congregation to vote
Yeah.
upon. But that was, if there was a bump in the road, that was it.
But I love that in doing the work, you end up having these important conversations. And the very question of, like, is this the right word, helped you get to a place like where you could emphatically affirm what you believe because your church took the time to talk about it. And I just think that's so important and so wonderful.
Well,
So,
And it even helps, like, I mean, obviously, like, I'm the pastor here, and I don't really go around banging my fist on tables, but, you know, I've been here, I just hit 5 years, and there's even some moments where I think, "Okay, do I have the authority to do that? Like, do I have," and so sometimes I think we forget that, yes, it's words, it's the whole church body, but it helps remind the women who are pastors, "Okay, yes, I am called, I am trusted, I can make tough decisions." Um, we're not gonna beat our fists on tables, at least I hope not, but, but it even helps the pastors who are already in place to just be reminded um, of their leadership.
Yeah. Mhm. I love that. I think a lot of women have. I can't imagine very many men who have gone, "Do I have the authority to do that?" And that may not be fair, so the men can call me out if I'm wrong. I can take it. But I think there are a lot of women I know, and I think myself have probably asked that same question. And so you're right. That's so helpful. Well, after so many things that y'all did last year, what kind of impact did you see that had, either in the church or on individuals or maybe the community around you?
Yeah. There was the day that we, uh, had the proclamation in worship, that we everyone who was there signed it. We, put it on the wall in our foyer. We're very proud of it.
I love it.
But but I one of the things that I think is impactful, and it may not necessarily be like in this moment, but there was a question of what I did ask that we do was that we go into a business session to vote on it. And that was so it could go into the permanent records of our
Yeah.
church, right?
Mhm.
So it would go
Yeah,
into minutes.
I love that.
So in 30 years, someone can pull this out and say, "Look, we have voted as a church body unanimously that we support the authority of women." Um, and I think that I hope that impact goes forward, right? So I hope that there's this picture of like of me and our other pastor on staff and Meredith and our deacon chair and there's this picture of all of us together with a little girl in it. And I'm imagining like in 20 years, like could that picture be recreated, with more I don't know. I hope that the impact goes forward, but I think that um considering where the state of just the Baptist world is right now, I know that at Ridgewood, there are still some folks who live with the scars of what happened 30, 40 years ago and more. And to be fair, is still happening, right? Happened last summer with how women's voices were silenced and uh
Yeah.
um I hope that by putting it in our business meeting minutes, by putting it on a wall, but by putting it in our permanent records especially, it serves as some kind of balm, for the women and men who generations before me have, lost battles or who
Mhm.
have, watched people leave the church because they don't believe that a woman should be ordained as a deacon, or have called a pastor only to discover that they are not as moderate as they said they were in the interview process.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that the impact, yes, the ripples go forward, but I also
Mm,
hope the impact um, serves as a balm to those who have been fighting for so long for that moment.
yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful word. Yeah. So tell me your favorite thing that happened. We'll end with that. Tell me what you loved the most about this whole process with your church.
um, I I really loved being able to host the documentary, and I recognize that was a privilege. I loved being able to do it. Um, but I think the moment that I will remember, that was a highlight, that was most impactful for me, was, and I think Louisville might have been the place where we got the most. We had 4 of the mothers of BWIM at the end of the documentary that were sitting across the front of Ridgewood Sanctuary.
Wow.
And a few of them good, good friends, or at least have become so. And I I just remember that moment of, like, getting to look and see them up there, having just shown a movie about, their life,
Yeah.
their early professional life, and, like, behind them on the platform is where the pulpit that I get to preach at each Sunday is sitting, and just being, I think, overcome it and just moved of, like, how many generations have poured into the ability that I have now to preach, right? To the ability that I have now to have that
Right.
pastoral authority,
Yeah.
not just behind a pulpit, but here in my office Monday to Thursday,
Yeah.
Uh, so that moment of just kind of seeing that, of hosting it, of seeing these women, and then, like, seeing this pulpit, kind of behind the screen where the movie was
Yeah.
shown. I hope that I don't think that will be a moment that I soon forget. Um, that that was impactful for me personally. The event was great for our church. It was great for the BWM community. It was great for the Louisville community, but that moment was life-giving to me. So
You caught me. You got me. And because I resonate with that feeling every time I am reminded of all the work the women before me have done so that I can do the work that I do. It is a powerful thing to be reminded of that. So,
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
well, Molly, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share with us about what you and your congregation did. And thank you for being such a wonderful minister and for pastoring this wonderful church. I hope that 2025 is as meaningful to you as 2024 was.
Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate it.